Hey, how's it going? It's Grant with the Garden of Eater, and today I'm just doing a water change in the old shrimp room, and I thought it would be the perfect time to do a video on the difference between green jades and green emeralds. They're both neocardinas, they're both green, they both take the same parameters, eat the same foods. So what's so different about them, huh? Before we get started, I thought this would be a good time to talk about the neocardina charts, where they list where every color comes from or how you make each color and why they're not necessarily correct. And it's not really the fault of the person who put the charts together, because they went to sources that they thought were reputable and just basically copied down the information that they were told, when what they were told was by breeders who were caught up in greed and profit and lied to them simply to keep their secret of how they bred the shrimp, so that way they could be the only ones breeding that shrimp for as long as possible and make the most money. And this isn't really that uncommon. It's throughout all different types of breeding hobbies and whatnot. And however, they purposely gave wrong information to lead people down the wrong roads, so that way it took them even longer to achieve the same goal. And there's also many different ways to achieve the same color and pattern and stuff like that. So what information I have may not be exactly factual. I'm going to give you guys my opinion on some of these things and back that up with the facts that I have, that I can see firsthand through breeding them out myself. Alright, so let's start off with green jades. They are basically every shade of green hue that you could think of, from light green to solid painted, and I'll get more into painted and different grading of neocardina shrimp in a little bit, but for now, just every shade of green. And the back lines, you could have no backline or a yellow, green, even golden rusty color like the one in the middle. There is so many different options or ways you could breed these out for neon green, or even in the bottom I keep some of my really culls in here, even though they're not really the best green, just so I could try and work on that line. It's not really a common line out there yet, but it's definitely something that's possible in the future. You could go for the bright neon green or the deep dark green, but that's kind of going to go down the road of emeralds. But with greens, green jades, and when I first got them, I was tending to get a lot of blue and yellow culls, not too many greens. Very small percentage of them actually came out green, maybe 20%. And then by second generation, I stopped seeing the yellows. And then by third or fourth generation, I stopped really seeing most of the blues. I'm talking about like the lighter blues. Any of the deep dark blues that I was getting, I kind of kept them because they were turning out to be the deep dark painted greens when they grow up and mature. All neocardina shrimp are going to lack pigment when they're born and just gain and gain more pigment as they mature and grow older. And that's a lot of the reasons why some of the shrimp will become rusty or darker color as they age. It's just the pigments maturing and darkening up, and also growing bigger and merging into one another. So that's why some of the translucent shrimp can become painted later on in life. So really quickly, I want to talk about grades of shrimp. We'll start off with Sakura. This is going to be 50% of the body is covered with pigment or more. So most of the shrimp is going to show visible green. You won't see too much transparency. There are a few, like on the bottom right hand corner, that lack a lot of pigment. These would be culls. I wouldn't even grade these Sakura. But then after Sakura, you're going to have fire grade. We don't really use that too much with other colors besides the reds, but it's just basically a higher grade before you get to the painted. This is going to be like 80 to 90% coverage. Almost the entire shrimp is going to look like it has green. You're not really going to see gaps in the pigment unless you zoom in with a macro lens. And then you're going to have your painted. Painted is going to be 100% coverage. This is going to look like the shrimp almost has like little armor over its shell. It's completely covered, no gaps in the pigment, and this is the highest grade. And with green Jades, you're not going to really have too many painteds, and the majority of the painteds will always have the, I mean, not always have, but the majority of the painteds will have the backline. Very few will have no backline. And because of the grades and the different shades of culls and everything like that, I have a feeling that the green Jades were created by crossing either some type of yellow neo and some type of blue neocardina together. That's where all the blues and yellows came from at first. It's very possible, however, it came from a mutation of either blue or yellow, or selectively bred from yellows. However, unless the breeder comes out and lists exactly how he did it, takes credit for it, we won't ever really know. And maybe it's a common known thing over in Asia. However, in the United States, we just don't know whereabouts these shrimp came from or howabouts they came about. Now with the green Jades, I highly recommend keeping them on black substrate. They're not cuttlefish, but they do have some camouflage reflexes. Whatever substrate you put them on, they are going to try to match their background. So they can't turn into black, so they're going to get as deep and dark as possible. That is going to turn them dark green. Where if you take them out, put them in a cup or a white substrate tank, they're going to turn very clear, so that way they think that the fish or predators won't be able to see them, and it makes them less stressed out. So black substrate is definitely the way to go for the green Jades. Also, this isn't really something I talk a lot about, but they will look the best on brighter light. The higher light, the better. I have just one little tiny LED light on this tank, and they look alright, but they look incredible out in the sun, or even with higher LED lights or stronger halogen or something like that. They really kind of pop when the sun comes out. I'll jump back to culls really quickly. Now that I don't really see any more blues or yellow culls, I do kind of just get these different shades of greens, even clear like the one running around in the back. That would be a definite cull. Where the lighter green to darker green, I kind of keep all those in this tank. I have other tanks where I'm trying to go in different directions and stuff like that, but I do get this random orange cull out of nowhere now. It's maybe 1 in 100 shrimp, if that, maybe 1 in 1,000. I haven't seen really any in this tank. However, they do come out in the pond outside and in my other 2 tanks. And another thing is these guys, the culls that are lighter green will tend to have kind of wild type patterns. Even some of the culls will look straight wildish looking, and I just think that comes from the cross, if they were made that way, between the yellow or blue or however they did it. It's just the wild type. Maybe they did cross, they got a wild shrimp that had, you know, somewhat of green pigments to them, and then they selected bred for that and eventually got the green Jades. Now onto the green emeralds. They are a newer shrimp. They've only been around in the States for about 3 years now. They're a deeper, darker green. They almost all tend to be painted. There are a few that come out not painted. I usually just cull those. These do tend to be a little bit more temperamental on their color. They can flip-flop from green to blue to black. This depends a lot on their stress, or if they're molting, or parameters and whatnot. But for the most part, they are that deeper, darker, more vibrant green that is more sought out for. It's more common that people are looking for the emeralds than they are the green Jades, just because they are what's sought out to be higher grade. As you can see, very few of these will have backline. I've only ever gotten like 2 backlines the entire time I've been breeding these. I've put those 2 together in their own tank, so maybe I'll up my chances of getting more backlines out of that. However, throughout, I don't know, I have 3 tubs outside and 2 tanks now inside, and those 2 backlines are the only ones I've ever gotten. For the most part, they breed very, very true, not as many culls as the green Jades, and when I do get the culls, they are pretty much light green and transparent with no stripes at all. That's why I think that they're a different line. It is possible that they are selective bred from green Jades, you know, the deeper, darker painted ones without the stripes, and then selectively bred many generations until all the culls were reduced to what you see. and then the back line was bred out, as well as the stripes from the wilds or however they were made. But this could also be a totally different mutation from different shrimp. I get a lot of really deep dark greens out of my black rose, so it is possible that these might have come from a black rose line where they selectively bred the greens from those to get the emeralds. It would make a lot of sense on the blue and the black. Actually, when I ship these out, almost every single time I ship these to someone, the first response is, "You sent me blue dreams instead." They turn almost the same exact color as blue dreams when they're stressed out in the bags, and then give them a couple days or a few hours in the right parameters under the right substrate, and they will turn back to green. These guys almost look a little bit better on a lighter substrate. They do fine on black, but they do tend to look a little bit deeper and darker and blacker on the black substrate. If you put them on a lighter substrate, they will kind of turn to a more vibrant green. So like I said, just to recap, same parameters, same type of shrimp and all that, just the main difference would probably be the green jades are many different shades of green, where the emeralds are the deep dark and painted for the most part, no backline, and just a little bit more money, $1 or $2 more on average per shrimp. And a lot of that is to do with they're a little bit newer and they are sought to be a higher grade. So, and I think that's about it for this video. If you liked watching this video, I'd like to see maybe the difference between Bloody Marys and Red Cherries, or Blue Dreams and Blue Diamonds, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll put that to the list of videos we're going to make in the future. Thanks for watching.